Hey guys, you're listening to the SpeakInCOAD podcast. This is Code, Conspiracy of a Dead Man. I'm sitting here with TBD,
Yeah.
Theodore Dinamite, and Chente, the homie.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, so I think the last episode we talked about UFOs, we talked about aliens, and then we just went straight to current events and talked about the train derailment, the hamsters on the wheel that fell off and messed it up, and then went into a Chinese balloon. And then wasn't there something else?
The chemicals from the train.
And maybe the possible start of World War III.
I think we touched on that. I can't remember.
Yeah, we did. We'll get there. Once we get that episode out, we'll get you all caught up with these ones.
I got you my cardio up there.
Yeah. So how you doing, Chente? I feel like we haven't all talked or got together for.
Well, that's because you're out there in Bama doing what you do.
No. I've been back. We did like 7 episodes. Oh yeah,
you wanted to hang with your new friends and left us in the wind.
He wasn't that new of a friend. I knew him after you, but before Chente, so it was like a middle friend.
Well, me and Teddy been speaking. All right, we're feeling left out.
Yeah.
Did you miss us while you were gone?
Of course I did. I wish that I would have had more time.
I'm just saying.
Well, I was out getting drunk. And
I'll be drunk texting Teddy all the time.
You're like, we did like 16 Black Holes episodes, but we didn't even record them.
We thought we were recording, but we were speaking into a bar soap.
Oh, so you were speaking in coke. Or speaking in soap.
Speaking in soap. Oh, yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do one about soap operas.
And not even mention, this is probably going to be episode 8, huh?
Yes.
It's going to be an episode, but...
It will be an episode. If it starts getting dark. We talked a little bit about symbolism too, I think, in the last one. And then I think I brought up Stanley Kubrick and like some of the movies. One of the movies he did too was Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
I forget about that one.
I remember you mentioning that, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, me neither. It's like an old one.
You gotta watch 2001: The Space Odyssey.
Yes. Yeah. That's the other one he did. So... Not to jump too much into the episode and like change topics or anything. We'll definitely touch on a few things. But I was talking with a buddy of ours, mine and Chente's friend, and he the whole ride to work, I was like talking to him. He's like, "Yeah, what do you think about?" I think I mentioned I didn't believe in aliens, like from the last episode. Yeah. I was just kind of touching base on what we were talking about, and then it just went full blown crazy. Like he was like, what do you mean you don't believe in aliens? And then I started talking to him about like, well, I think they're demons or they're interdimensional beings. And then I started talking about the Anunnaki. And he was just like, what? And I go, I don't think that we've evolved. I think we've devolved. I think that the people from the beginning weren't cavemen and dumb and just slow. And
Are you calling me the Mrs. Link?
Mrs. Link?
Missing Link.
Oh, I was like, Mrs. Doubtfire, maybe. Not Mrs. Link. Yeah. Oh, no. Help is on the way, dear. I feel like I could do that better if I wasn't so stuffed up. But, so I kind of filled him in with that stuff. And then he was just kind of intrigued. He was like, dude, how the heck would you even come up with that? And I'm like, honestly, whenever we're doing the podcast, sometimes somebody will say something and it just clicks. And then when it's like, you jump in, like when you're jumping rope, and it's like, what's it called? Double Dutch. Yeah, when it's double Dutch, and you're like, all right, it's my turn, and you jump in, and you're like, boom, 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 and it's like rapid fire, and people are like, well, what the heck? How did you come up with that? And you're like,
I took A times X equals 15. Like, basic geometry.
Yeah.
I mean, algebra.
E equals MC Hammer.
Yes.
They had it wrong. It makes parachute pants. So I talked to him about that stuff, and he was just like super intrigued, and like I was surprised at the feedback from him. Like he was like, "Dude, I can't believe you guys even came up with that stuff." Like how we were talking about the deities or the fallen angels or the watchers or
being those Anunnaki.
Or the Anunnaki coming here and just saying, maybe they were saying like, "Hey, since they were kicked out of heaven as the fallen angels, maybe they were coming out and saying like, I am a god," to get them to stop.
Yep.
So
one thing I think we should do, go back and see what because we read about them, but see what the actual meaning of their names is, and compare that to the meaning of some of the Greek and Norse and Egyptian gods to see if there's any correlation of who may have been named after.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, one of them I think for sure was Ishtar.
Uh-huh.
She was the demon that's named in the Bible.
Okay.
But in Greek mythology, she was considered Aphrodite. In Anunnaki, she was also considered Ishtar. And then in Roman, she was Venus.
Okay. In Hindu, isn't there an Ishtar?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same one.
I don't know if it's. I don't think it's Ishtar. I think it's something else.
Okay.
Because what's crazy is I'm reading that a grand unified conspiracy.
Yes.
And I'm getting to those parts.
Okay.
Like he actually touched on that, which is freaking dope. Because I feel like everything we're kind of touching on, I'm like reading this book and I'm like, we touched on that. Yep. Holy crap.
Are the Anunnaki the Pangea conspiracies?
I think they're the Pangea, period.
And tie everything together.
Yeah.
And then we've just separated it, not knowing that it all had one origin.
Well, I also think about the Tower of Babel, how everything got separated. You know, I almost feel like that could have been either Pangea happening on its own, or maybe another cataclysm that caused it. And then here's what's really...
If the cataclysm was, because with Tower of Babel, we were trying to get as high as God to be where God was, and divided our languages. What if it's all one? Mm-hmm. He caused the cataclysm and separated the languages, and it was one land. He's like, yeah, you guys are getting too big for your britches, and he just...
Yeah. Well, here, the other thing too, which is really cool, you just mentioned that the Tower of Babel was tore down and all the languages were separated, right? Yes. There's an app that you can download for your phone called Babbel, where you can learn all of the languages. So it's almost like they're trying to make good is evil and evil is good, you know. So like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of a cool.
Or like
cool
the
idea.
tattoo we were talking about with Kevin Owens. It said, "Live one way, evil the other way."
Yeah, like if you look at it in a mirror.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens, the wrestler. So I was talking to him about that stuff on the way to work, and he was very intrigued, and I felt like I'm not a philosopher by any means. I feel like we just come up with this stuff, or we read into it, or look into it, and we just run with it, and it's fun, you know. But
think about it in the shower.
What's that?
Think about it in the shower.
Yes, exactly. So at work today, he was sitting there and asking me about like stuff came up. We started talking about what was I talking about? I think I mentioned that there was like another Clinton aide that got killed or suicided.
Oh. Okay.
So they found
allegedly.
him. What's that today?
He said allegedly.
Oh yeah, yes, allegedly. I don't want to accuse anybody of stuff that you know for a fact that they probably did. So, he ended up going, like, they found him tied to a tree with an extension cord and a gunshot wound to the chest. And they didn't find the gun. So I don't know if he shot himself in the chest first and then went to the tree out in the middle of nowhere and then tied himself with the extension cord, or if he tied himself with the extension cord, then shot himself and then hid the gun, and then, or I don't know, maybe the gun was in the hole of the tree, or
please tell me they didn't rule this a suicide.
They did. So allegedly. To be fair.
Oh yeah, because I fell down an elevator shaft with 6 bullets in my back.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you did like Wanted, and you shot around the corner in the bend, and you went, bow, 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 and you waited, and then they came around the corner of the other side, and it hit you.
And then I fell down the elevator.
That movie's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's not real. I tried at the...
What? Please tell me you're joking. Please don't say you really... Okay.
I said I tried at the shooting range. But...
I feel like there were people that saw that movie and really went and tried that.
Oh, yes. Allegedly.
So
I talked to him a little bit about that, and I was tying a former president and a wife of his that starts with a C and ends with "you next Tuesday," and how I very dislike her so much, but how they have 50 friends that have parted ways with our time and space and continuum of Earth and their soul and their spirit from their body. And
round Earth.
What's that?
On our round Earth.
Yeah, on our round Earth. Can I turn the volume up on this? I can barely hear him.
I think it's all the way up.
Is it? Sorry, Chente, the homie. You sound like you're far, far away in a galaxy somewhere else. There we go. That sounds better. Can you hear him okay?
Yeah, it sounded louder.
Yeah, it sounds way louder. Just yell more, okay?
Okay.
You talk so soft. You're about to make a TBD fall asleep.
He has that midnight radio voice.
Yeah.
This is Chente the Homie with your midnight jams.
That's racist.
He's like, play some Bad Bunny, please.
Oh.
And I don't know how Bad Bunny plays.
I only know one song of his. It's called Booker T.
Oh, that's his?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he's a wrestling fan.
Yeah. That song was in 2K22.
Yep.
So anyway, I kind of tied that together with people in power that can get away with a lot of things. Okay. And we started talking a little bit about I started telling him about Jeffrey Epstein and how he supposedly his demise and how all the cameras were off during that time when
he defied gravity with his neck.
Yes, and it looked like he was strangled, but allegedly. So I kind of filled him in on that, and then one other guy in our office is super skeptical of everything. You could be like, "Here is the evidence," and he would go, I don't buy it."
Who wrote this evidence?
Yes. Yeah. Let me see. I'm like, well, you could go on Google and find it. No. There's no way. That can't be true. And you're like, well, go on Google and find it. And then they see it firsthand and they go, well, but who really wrote this? I don't believe these journalists. You're like, bro, it's right there in front of your face. How am I going to break this down anymore? And I told him that there's more people in slavery today than any other time in history. And I was trying to explain that to him. And he's like, there's no way. You think that there's more people that are enslaved today? He goes, back in the day, they enslaved an entire continent or in Africa. And I'm like, well, but that's different than today. I was like, there's more people that are human trafficked. Yeah. And I go, that are sold into sex slavery today than there were back then. And I would assume so. Allegedly. I'm not 100%
the amount
sure.
of people going missing, male, female, young.
Yeah. So I explained that to him, and I showed him a video of this guy breaking it down in front of a bunch of NFL players and coaches. Do you remember Tony Dungy from I think that's his name, Tony Dungy from the Indianapolis Colts?
I'm gonna have to say no.
I'm almost certain that's his name. Anyway, this guy ended up interviewing him, and he goes, "How many people today do you think are enslaved?" And he was like, "I don't know, maybe 100,000." And then somebody else was like, "Oof." They're like, "There can't be that much today." And he's like, "Maybe like, I don't know, 5,000." Another guy was like, "Maybe 100. Like, there can't be slavery today." And the guy ended up breaking it down. He goes, "There's 50 million people that are enslaved today." Yeah. So they were all in shock. And then he goes, "Do you know how much money the trafficking and human slavery even is today?" And the guy was like, they had no idea, and they were guessing low, of course. Yeah. And he ended up saying that it was like, I think like 150 or $250 billion profit. Yeah.
Shit.
So he said that, do you know how much money the United States uses to fight against human trafficking?
Probably like $1,000.
Yeah. I mean, you're closer than those guys were. One guy was like 100. One guy was like probably none now. And then another guy was like maybe like 49,000. They provide $98 million a year to fight against human trafficking. But that's such a minuscule amount compared to billions. Yeah. Like, did I explain to you guys the million seconds, the billion seconds? Yes. And the trillion seconds?
Yeah, you explained that.
Did I explain that to you, Chente?
Yeah.
Did we do it on the podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, anyway, so the United States provides $98 million. But if you take 1 million, well, never mind, I won't even do that. But then they have $250 billion. That's how much that thing costs. They said that one of the stadiums, I think they said that they could fill it twice a day, every day, for like so many days. That's how many people were enslaved.
I believe it.
And then they said that, I'm trying to remember before I butcher it. I'll put the video on in the Discord and stuff too.
And I have a feeling that's all just like you said, like sex trafficking, child labor, But like, how much of that is counting like legal slavery? Because if you think about the prison system itself,
no, that's not even counting the prison system.
See,
yeah.
So that's just like all the illegal, horrible things we see in movies every day, right there.
Well, we don't even see this stuff in movies, man. I think that a lot of it has to do with like the foster care system and stuff too.
I can believe that.
I mean, I think that there's so many people go missing in that, and I was explaining to him. I go, how much is it to adopt a kid, right? I go, what if they tell you can't adopt a kid because you have something mental wrong with you, right? Because they have to do screenings.
Which I think they should.
Yes. But he's like, oh, well, he goes, I was like, how much do you think that people pay to adopt a child? And he was like,
man,
I don't know.
Yeah, we struggling with that.
Yeah, well, he was like, I don't know, maybe like $5,000. I was like, for a child? I was like, dude, they're probably like $50,000 to adopt a kid. I was like, they got to be expensive. And he was like, no way. He goes, maybe like 20,000 max. So then I had my buddy that was like there with me Googling it, and he goes, no, man, it's like 50 grand to like adopt a child. Yes. And that's not adopting. That's not like foster to adopt. That's a different circumstance too.
This is like when you leave with this baby and it's yours. We have nothing to do with it.
Yes.
You're responsible for it.
But when you foster to adopt, like, you have to foster somebody, and then they have to be of age to be like, I feel like they're almost like 18 when they're like, hey, can you adopt me?
Yep. And plus, like, I believe when you foster a child, you actually get paid.
A little bit. It's only like $400 a month.
Okay.
So it's like $100 a week or something. We looked all this stuff up too.
Yeah, because there's some people that foster multiple kids. Some of them are kind-hearted, and they do everything they can to take care of those kids. But there's some of them, they don't care. They are in it for that $400 a month.
Yeah.
So think about it. I foster 12 kids. That's what, $1,600?
Yeah, and there might be a cap too. I don't know. Yeah, but when we looked it up, he was like, yeah, but man, what the heck was it? It was like, I explained. He goes, well, if you foster somebody, he goes, you only foster them for 2 years and then they go to another home. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's not true. I'm like, where'd you find that at? He goes, you Google it. Well, it was a minimum of 2 years. Some people will foster on, then they said on average. On average, people will foster somebody for only 2 years, and then the kid either wants to leave, the parent doesn't want them anymore, or the kid runs away.
Okay.
Or something else happens where they get transported to the system somewhere else. I told him, I was like, I knew a girl that I went to school with, where I think it was like her and a couple siblings that were or fostered, right?
Yeah.
And this woman took care of them and like kept them together, and she stayed with that woman until graduated high school together.
Wow.
So that was like probably from like 6th grade until we graduated high school. And I think it's sometimes like she would, when we were younger, she would be like my mom, talking about her birth mom. But it was like one of those situations, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not 100% if this is the situation, but I'm almost certain like the original mom, the birth mom, lost the children due to being drugs.
Okay.
And then she got fostered maybe by an aunt, either an aunt or another family member, or it would have just been like maybe a family friend or something that was like safer.
Yeah.
And then she would talk about her mom whenever she would mention like her birth mom.
Yeah.
But then later in life she would call her other mom.
Because she's probably seen her as a real mom for being there.
And it was so long, yeah. Like I think for a while, like they'll think like, oh yeah, my real mom's gonna pick me up and be here soon, you know, she's changing or doing stuff for the better, which is great. Like I really root for people to do that, but
it doesn't always come to fruition.
Yeah, so like long story short, we talked a lot about this stuff, right? And I was like, Google it, man. If you don't believe me, check it out yourself. And there was so many things that I was like, whoa, I was right about that. Like, I'm not like saying I'm right I'm not right anytime, but for that kind of situation, I was like, that's interesting. I don't really study too much on this stuff, but I feel like when you look into things like that, and that's something that you would fight for, like, I don't know.
But to what you said, you think like how like fostering kids or adopting kids is a big thing toward the sex trafficking. Like you said, think about how many kids they want their real parents, whether it's mom, dad, or grandparent, whoever it is, to come back.
Yep.
So they get placed with these families and they run away because they were trying to find their family.
Yes.
And then they get snatched up off the street. Think about, we don't know how many of these people are fostering kids and adopting kids just to legit sell them straight in the sex trafficking.
And that's what I was explaining to him. And I told him, I go, as much nice people you think there are in the world, I go, there's equally, if not more, evil people. I mean, I would hope and pray that there isn't more evil people than there are good.
Well, sadly, with everything in life, you have wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
So I'm nice right here while we're looking eye to eye, but as soon as you turn your back, my fangs come out,
and I'm shitting in your chair.
Pretty much, though. Yeah.
And then I sit and I'm like, no.
Think about it, and again, how we said, with programming.
Yes.
Think about it. We have Law and Order SVU. We have CSI and CSI Miami and Chicago PD, where they show us this stuff, and people are like, "How could they come up with that?" Because
it happens.
It happens. Like you said, you can Google, you can go to news sites, and there are stories, and like, how many of these stories are actually like publicized nationwide?
Yeah.
Like, there's a handful that maybe get national attention, and all the rest you only know because you're in that area or you've encountered a person that has lived through that traumatic experience.
Yep.
And then, like, I'm not sure how many are around anymore, but think about reform schools.
Oh, wasn't there a huge one in Canada?
There may have been.
Where they moved like a lot of natives up there, and then all those children went missing or killed.
I would believe it.
I think there's like a school up there, like a monastery. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that they found like a bunch of bones and stuff and bodies, like dead bodies and skeletons of like children.
Again, because I would believe it, because it's happened here in America too. And same thing, they would send girls to convents, and then they would report abuse from the nuns or the priests, and some would run away and get returned, or run away and never be seen again.
Yeah.
We don't know if they lived better lives. They ended up trafficked. Who knows?
Yep.
It's just.
The other thing that I was going to mention was like, there are so many good people out there, but there's so many evil people. Like, if you broke down like what you think you're good, like you ask some like normal person on the street, like, do you feel like you're a good person? They're going to try to think of everything morally that they did wrong and be like, no, I'm not a good person. But they're probably still a really good person compared to these evil people that are like literally sacrificing children, or they're a part of like these occult or elitists, that they're a part of these things, where if these children go missing, like I think the Super Bowl, every year the Super Bowl is the biggest human trafficking event that happens.
We touched on that before, yes.
And in Tampa Bay, I think, is like one of the #1 cities that human trafficking actually happens in. And then they had Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl recently, and all these different cities. I think you said in Arizona that's pretty prevalent, and we talked about Cleveland being pretty bad too. And I'm sure it's everywhere and anywhere. Like every state, I'm sure, has somebody that's in charge of making sure that stuff happens, or making sure it's hush hush and things are happening when we have the peanuts and circus and bread and circus, where everybody's at an event.
Yes.
They go, now's our time. It's nighttime. It's dark. Nobody's paying attention. Who knows? I mean, there's these underground tunnels that go through city to city that people don't know about. I mean, we're learning about these now, but
have a whole airport that's a city unto itself.
Yeah, Denver.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I think there's some spots in Utah too, and I think these very, very rich people have created these. I think they're called DUMBs. They're called deep underground military bases.
Okay.
And I think that these rich people have the money to have these tunnels built, so that way if shit hits the fan up here, then they can be underground. Like, say for example, if we had a nuclear war, the only thing that would probably fill those tunnels would probably be if we had another flood again.
Yeah.
Like a cataclysm like that. But if it was a nuclear warhead that got attacked here, I feel like those people would hide underground until it's safe and they have all their stuff all prepped and ready, and then they can survive down there the entire time until it's ready to come up for clean air.
They probably know when the attack would happen.
I think
and
they
have
know.
Been gone weeks in advance before the rest of us.
Yep. Like that's what's insane too. Like, I was talking to them about Turkey. Did you hear about the country of Turkey? Yeah, the earthquake. Well, all these countries pulled out all of their embassy people from their embassy like 2 days before the earthquake happened.
That seems like a very funny coincidence, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, how many coincidences are there before they're actually like, this can't be a coincidence. It can't be a conspiracy. like we call things conspiracies because it's fun to talk about, but it's also like very interesting stuff too, for me at least. You know, and these things there's a lot of these things that have been proven factual and true, but people that were sold on it as being a conspiracy never get told later that, oh, hey, by the way, this came true.
Yeah.
You know,
they just released documents and interviews that, no one ever knew about until all the people that could be held accountable are gone or
dead and
statute of limitations have passed.
Yep, exactly. So we touched on, we talked about that stuff, but then like with the system, you know, with all these foster care kids and all this stuff too, you know, it's like not only are the runaways, but what about the people that like sell the children through the system?
Yes.
You know, like I believe wholeheartedly that happens and not just like specific states. I think it happens in every state.
It does. And you and Chente are both wrestling fans. Here's one I just recently found out. Ric Flair is a victim of that.
Really?
He is adopted. The people that adopted him didn't know that the person they adopted for literally like stole him from like some hospital. They had this thing where the doctor would say the child was stillborn or like passed away.
Yep.
And then, he would pay them to give him the baby, and they get fake papers made, and they had this whole adoption agency. And like I said, I don't remember how much they paid to adopt him, but they adopted him thinking he was a legit, kid to be adopted.
Yeah.
And then it came out, and he's like 70 now, and I think he found out like in his 60s that he was pretty much sold to his adoptive parents. I mean, they were innocent because they were just trying to
adopt. He knew he was adopted though, right?
He knew he was adopted.
But he had like kind of an idea who he was adopted from, or not at all? I mean, not adopted from, but yeah, I guess.
They'll never know, because like when all this came out and the place got shut down, I guess there was like, whoever this lady was didn't really keep records, so he'll never know who his real parents actually were. She made up like false papers for his parents that gave him up to these people to adopt. Like it was, and like I can't remember how many kids it said that ended up her pretty much like selling. And think about it, like how bad do you have to feel as a person, like you and your wife, whatever, whether it's on the guys in, the ladies in, can't have children, decide to adopt.
Yeah.
And so you go to this lady who you think, because like I don't know how much research people do into adoption, but maybe it was her word of mouth. Oh yeah, she helps people get kids. And that's all you hear. You don't think, is she doing illegal or not? And she goes, "Oh, fill out these papers, give me this money, you'll have the baby in a month."
Jeez.
And then you
get
raise
faster than I get a car.
Probably. But then you raise this kid from infancy to adulthood.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and does all this other stuff, and like after you've spent decades with his child, and it's adult man now, and then it comes out like, oh well, yeah, you committed a crime because you adopted from a lady who stole a baby. And then how do the real parents feel? Like were told their baby was like stillborn, and then all this time their child is off living with some other people, living this whole other life. And again, because it's a shady thing and they don't want no trace, they'll never know which child was theirs, and it's horrible, like when you really get down to the minute details of it.
Yeah. Well, have you heard like I think it was in Virginia, I don't know if he was the governor there, but he was trying to get abortion in the third trimester approved, and they had something called late term abortion, where it was almost at the point where like they were able to have an abortion, like agree and be like, I want to have an abortion at the like on the table with their legs spread, having the baby.
What?
Yes. So they were having it like post birth abortions and stuff. And what they said that they do was, if the baby is born and it's born stillborn, they will try to revive it. But if the woman said like, hey, I want an abortion, or I don't want the baby, they wouldn't even, like, if you think about it, they wouldn't even do like they would make sure the baby is taken care of. So whether they push parts of the baby out, organs, stuff like that, they keep it alive. And they said that something along the lines of like, they'll keep it comfortable. until it can pass. But if they're keeping it comfortable, and what if they're not killing it? What if they're letting it grow up enough and then they just either harvest the organs, or they sell it into sex trafficking, or you could do these rituals. Where, have you ever heard of adrenochrome?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay, like the adrenalized blood, so they scare the baby.
Yeah.
Or scare the child, and then they cause harm or cut them, and then they use that blood, and it's supposed to be like the highest high, and like the best drug ever supposedly. And it was in like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. I think it was Johnny Depp. He pulls out this little vial, and he goes, "This is adrenochrome." He goes, "This is like the best high you'll ever get." He kind of explains that, and then not to go full circle, but during the Epstein trial and all that stuff, or Ghislaine Maxwell, they didn't show that on TV. They only showed the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial on TV.
Yeah.
So you got anything on human trafficking there, Chente?
No, you guys pretty much hit it, man.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for this episode. We'll probably touch base on the next one. Hopefully this one warmed us up enough to get Chente to talk.
I was listening. I was taking it all in.
And I'll provide a lot of stuff too. Like on the Discord, I have it under, I think it's SpeakInCOAD. Like 3 separate words, and then you click on that one, and any of those topics underneath takes you to a Telegram channel where it won't ban the Discord.
Okay.
So it's usually like just a broadcast where I post it. If you want, just send it to me directly on Telegram I think you guys could just DM me on Telegram. Send me the full video or the full article on there. Usually you could post full videos for like 15 minutes or so on the Telegram. And I have like a Jeffrey Epstein one. I have a pizza one. I have one talking about people who love children that are way older that shouldn't love children, which is pretty gross to me. But they have a whole topic on that, and I have a bunch of links about Jeffrey Epstein and the pizza one, and a few actors and actresses that might be a part of it too. But there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down by watching those episodes.
Do you have any about like the Wayfair rumor that came out a few years ago?
I think so. I think I have that in that one. I think I have that in the pizza one and the Jeffrey one.
Okay.
So, but feel free to hit me up on those on Telegram, and I'll post them in there. It's usually, I think on just the Telegram, I just have it as a broadcast, so that way it doesn't get too cluttered with just people having conversations in there. Like, I'm not trying to pull people from the Discord, but I don't want the Discord to get banned again. Banned, period.
Yeah. Because
I never was on Discord until recently. So that's why we're.
I feel like the next time we talk about this, we should like put information out, because I know there's organizations that help fight sex trafficking and child trafficking.
Well, if you go to my Discord, our Discord, if you go to, if it logs up, okay, so under information category, we have the first tab. It's help fight against human trafficking. So any of those,
I need to through more of these tabs.
Yeah, so it's like help fight against human trafficking. I have Operation Underground Railroad. You can donate to them. It's Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard is like, he worked for I think he worked for the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. And
he was in the government. Long story short, he went overseas to help track somebody that was stolen.
Yeah.
For human trafficking. He located the person, and then the United States government said, "Hey, we don't have jurisdiction. You got to leave. You got to pull out of that area. We're not allowed to be there." So then he had to leave this child, knowing that he had it, like to save it. So he has a few documentaries. I think he has one. It's like he does one about a kid in Haiti that's really good. But if you want to help fight against human trafficking, you can go to O.U.R. It's Operation Underground Railroad, but it's the abbreviation O.U.R. rescue.org. Feel free to donate there. Tim Tebow has one called Rescue Them, and that one is called, you could find that at timtebowfoundation.org/anti-human trafficking. The other one that was really good, somebody mentioned before, was called Destiny Rescue. They're for fighting against ending human trafficking and sexual exploitation. I have some articles in there too, like if you guys wanted to check out about if you're into that kind of stuff. 20 ways you can help fight against human trafficking. There's like a state.gov website you can go to. 20 ways you can help fight human trafficking in the United States Department. You can also go to IJM. So it's I as in India, J as in Juliet, M as in Mike.org. And this is a charity that my buddy's church donates to.
Okay.
I think it was Jared. Jared's a part of the Discord now too. But yeah, Operation Underground Railroad, they have some cool stuff on Instagram. I mean, I follow them on Instagram. They're on YouTube, and then they also have a few documentaries on Prime, Amazon Prime. It's like I'll have to find the name of it. I can't remember the exact name of the documentary, but it's like O.U.R or something like that. But it's Haitian, so it's kind of like French.
Gotcha.
And then the other one that I wanted to mention, there's oasisfororphans.org, or there's Oasis for Orphans. It's O as in Oscar, the number 4, O as in Oscar.org. And that one is for more than an oasis place. It's an opportunity to meet an immediate need to bring children in Kenya into an environment of safety and belonging through a unique model of holistic development. And then I feel like there was one more. You can go to humantraffickinghotline.org. If you or someone you know is a victim of human trafficking, call 1-888-373-7888. So I think it's the same number backwards almost.
It sounded like
and then Jim Caviezel, he was the guy that played Jesus in Passion of the Christ.
Okay.
He's doing a movie with Tim Ballard from Operation Underground Railroad. I haven't checked that one out yet. It was supposed to release like I think 2020, but then with the Rona. Yeah, you said it, not me. So yeah, that's where you find all that information in the Discord. It's under the Hope Fight Against Human Trafficking. So right under the first tab, it's a information category. You just click that drop down, and it's the first hashtag. So thank you guys for listening. We're here with Chente the homie.
Yo.
We're gonna say deuce.
Good night, good people.
Damn it. I forget about that.
Yeah. You want to go again? Chente the homie?
Yeah. Deuce.
TBD, Teddy Bear Dynamite, Theodore Dinamite.
Good night, good people.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for listening. And we will drop this episode as a human trafficking episode, which I had no idea we would even do. But I think this kind of turned out cool.
We said we let it go where it goes.
Yep. It went there. Bye.
Thought for the day. One day, you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will be someone else's survival guide. Thank you for listening to episode 8 of the SpeakInCOAD podcast. This is Teddy Dynamite telling you, I don't drink water because it's dirty things fish do it.